huge turnout to see you here, so we're thrilled. Thank you so much. But can we start? Can you tell me a little bit about your work experience and what you're currently doing?
Yeah, sure. So first I said yay because I'm so excited that there's this many women that really want to think about integrating their faith and work. And I find that like inspiring to me. I'm super encouraged, so very excited to be here. You know, I did start, so that was a long bio. So I started in the company 2 weeks after I graduated college. I'm first generation college. I started in May of 1994, 2 weeks after I graduated from the University of Arkansas. So I'm born and raised Razorback and born and raised Arkansan. And I came to work at JB Hunt really just as kind of my part-time, or what I should say, my short-term summer gig until I could get my real job. And, you know, it was the people I was with, listening to my dad as my mentor, that I was in an organization. It took me a bit to get my kind of real interview. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to own my own business. I thought if I could be, I wanted to be responsible for my own results. And I really just didn't know if I could do that in corporate America.
And you have?
And so I got the opportunity to stay within the organization. Kind of grew up in pricing and yield management. I met my husband there. We'll be 26 years this August. And inherited 3 wonderful children. And then waited 4 years, started having children. So we have 6 between the 2 of us. And so David also worked at JB Hunt. He retired from the company after 36 years, just 2 years ago. So we're about 10 years apart. So our oldest, let me see if I can get all of this right. Our oldest is 37, 35 2 days ago, 34, 22, and I have twin girls that are 19.
Oh, wow.
And so empty nester, and I've served on our executive leadership team for the last 16 years. So my first appointment was really building one of our business units called ICS. I led our trucking group, and you kind of listed some of those things, but had a great opportunity to work with so many different people inside our organization. And then most recently, I was sharing board almost 1 year now in my new appointment, which I'm so excited about, being with our people and spending time just thinking about what we need to do together. So happy to be here.
Yes, that's wonderful. So this month, our theme is Bloom Together. So helping others bloom. And here at Polished, we want to be others focused. So because we believe that's how Jesus taught us to be. So will you share a little bit about how you incorporate serving others in your work or your life?
Yeah, well, you know, I actually didn't think that I would stay in the organization after I had children. I went part-time, and that was after I went to quit inside the organization. So I was a vice president at the time. I wasn't sure that I could be a stay-at-home, or I could be a good mom and a good worker and a good wife altogether. And it really was, you know, the Lord that worked on me over 2 years of being part-time that I felt called to come back and work. And I will share this because she's told me that I could share this. So while I was part-time, I actually inherited more job responsibility. So I had the same job, working part-time. I worked Monday, Wednesday, Friday while I was raising my son, who was 2, and my twin girls that had just been born. And during that 2 years, I got the opportunity to work with a lot of different people. But my first day back on the job, I really, you know, God and I had this duke-out moment when I had my son. That's when I went to quit. And then all the doors stayed open, and my husband said, well, maybe that's not God's plan for you to be at home. And I'm like, I'm tired of that. My mom stayed up, my grandma stayed up. It's just kind of part of what we do. And it was like a year, and then I went part-time. And over that 4-year period, God really just worked on my heart, and I really felt called to come back into JB Hunt. And I wasn't really sure what all that meant. And when I came back, I am a very obedient person. That's something that I'm fairly well known for. It's why I'm very structured and disciplined. I love to be obedient. Not always obedient, but I really love to be. And my first day back on the job, it was Monday morning, and my assistant, Nicole, came in and said, hey, how was your weekend? You know, great, I'm a little apprehensive because I'm back full-time now, just making sure I'm doing the right thing. I don't want my career to be before my family or my faith and all those things. And she said to me, I had the best weekend of my life. And I said, okay, why is that? And she said, this might sound funny to you, but I came to know Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior this weekend. And oh my gosh, at that moment I was like, you know, tears welled up, and it was like that moment that God gave me that he said, Shell, this is your Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth.
Yeah.
And you are called to do this. And it was like, clear,
Yeah.
boom.
Yeah.
So for me, I always think of, I love JB Hunt, but I love the people. You know, we can sell trucks or widgets or tech, or we can sell anything. We have the best people. But I think it's just like, when you think about serving, you don't actually have to go outside the sphere of your influence. You know, God gives us that. He places us in positions, whether that's in our home, and being full-time in our home for a period of time, as being outside the home, in the workplace, at church, in community. I think God does give us a sphere of influence that He expects us to think about people and serving people. And so, you know, that was a real marker in my life. And maybe there's always things. I've been with the company 29 years. Never had to be with the company 29 years, and never can imagine ever leaving the company. So there you go.
Right.
You know, He takes you through everything. But I remember when, in 2017, my father got sick and was immediately diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And I remember thinking, wow, he's a young guy. You know, he's 65 years old, and that's really young for you young people. 65 years young. But I remember thinking, wow, I wonder if, when Dad looks back on his life, did he get everything accomplished? He's at the end. So I wonder if he thinks that he has had impact as he served. Has he done all the things he wanted to do? And I had been talking about this a lot, but it was like the moment that I thought, you know, I'm really great at JB Hunt of knowing our mission statement to create the most efficient transportation network in North America. You know, that sounds so amazing. But we establish our goals and what we want to get accomplished based on those missions in our life. And I was like, do I have a mission in my life that I can firmly plant my goals to? And it was then that I didn't just write down my mission statement, I started living by it like every minute of my life. And so for me, it's to create an eternal impact in leadership by serving people, loving others, and being a good witness while integrating my faith, family, work, and community. So that's my mission, and that's how I think about life. And so I've had a lot of opportunity to serve, not just at JB Hunt, but you know, I've had the privilege of serving on the board of Work Matters, which is a group that integrates faith and work. And Jessica's here today. And you know, from 2015 until I just took this role, every year we take a group of women, 4 to 5. Almost all of them didn't work for JB Hunt, and we would spend 9 months together mentoring. And I would spend an hour and a half. And it's interesting because they like, oh, no, you know, so blessed. I'm like, no, the blessing was really on me. Because I got this great opportunity to spend time with these young women that wanted to just, you know, be successful in life, whatever that meant, and pleasing to God. And I got the opportunity to start with them of like, you know, everybody keeps all your insecurity, your secrets, all the problems you got, you keep it on the inside, you know, day one. And my goal always was to get them to come out with that on day one. And so by about halfway through, normally the group starts answering for themselves, and by the end of the 9 months, I would see them developing in community. And then they would have that cohort, if you will, to be able to go and now serve other people. So long story, I realize I had a long career. So I got a lot of examples, but you know, God just works on you over a period of time and lets you see like where you serve right now in this season of life. You know, I shared about my kids because literally I moved my girls to college, and 2 weeks later I started this new job. Isn't that amazing how God works?
It is.
Just He equips and He makes us ready in all of those things. And so, you know, now in my season and serving, you know, I've served in the church for a long time. I always say I try to serve everywhere that I'm active, in the community, and places like that. And so I feel like for me now, my serving is really on JB Hunt. So I spend a lot of time with our people and thinking about how I can equip them.
That's awesome, and I think someone else you mentored is here today. I'm almost positive. Raise your hand. I think from Arvis, that's currently with Arvis and now in our marketing team, right? Yes? So that's awesome. So I've heard amazing things about your mentorships, and as we were just laying out who we were going to have for speakers and things like that for the year, you were the first name that came up when we talked about people that made an impact on others they work with and just giving back and really helping others grow and bloom. So I'm just really excited to hear more about it. But Yes, and I would say, what you shared as well, we can all, I 100% agree, the platform we're given, whether that's in our workspace, whether that's one-on-one with, in a small office or a larger office or at home or wherever we are, we can make an impact and serve out our mission. And I love that you really thought about and articulated what you wanted. Did you write it down?
Oh, I didn't just write it down. It's actually, there's 2 plaques in my office. And so you can imagine on a 29-year career in a very successful company outside of me. I've had the privilege of accepting on behalf of our company just amazing awards. You read some of those, and those are all great. That's really just God setting the platform up so you get opportunities like this to share your witness. But the 2 most important parts of my office, one of them is my mission statement, and it's actually framed in my office. And then the other one is an award I got in high school that I really feel like, you do make nominated a woman sometimes, and that was one of the awards that I got based on my business. Those are the 2 most important things.
Yeah, and I ask you that because I've found in my own life that having that and articulating what you want, articulating what your goals are, what your values are, your mission or purpose, and not just having it, but writing it down and focusing on that is so much more impactful. And praying for that, God does have a way of working it out and making those things a reality. So I love that. So thank you for sharing that. So this might sound like a strange question too, but how does appropriate self-care play into helping others blossom?
Well, I'm huge on that. We're not just one part of I'm not just a mom, I'm not just a wife, I don't just work. For me, it's important that I'm mentally strong, spiritually strong, and that I'm physically strong. Those are all things that are really important to me. And so, I do take care of myself. I start my mornings very early by myself. I work out 6 days a week. It's very important for my mental and my physical health as well. I'm very big on having quiet time. I think that's really important. To spend time and grow and be consistent and grow. That's the one thing. I have so many people that come up to me and say, I really want to do whatever X is. And I'll say, I've written down the things that it would take for you to get to X. And most of the time I just think people want, but they're not willing to do what it takes. So discipline is one of the greatest attributes you can install in your life to really get you to a place of where you should be. And so that's important to me. I go to bed on time. I don't want to. When I'm retired, I'm sitting in. But I go to bed on time. I'm really good at what I put in my body, where I spend my time, whether that's what I watch, which I don't watch a lot. More because gosh, changed my desires over a period of time. I used to be a TV watcher. I'm like, how do I not watch TV now? But now I read a lot. I like the news. That's kind of gross, but but I think that's part of being in my role, and I'm a learner. I love to learn. I love to spend time learning. I think it's what's helped me grow. Whether that's learning as how can I be better in the workplace, or how can I be a better leader, how can I be a better wife, or all of those things. I'm a big believer in mental health, taking care of yourself. I feel like I have to model what I'm sharing with other people, and if I don't, I feel like I'm fake. Yeah. And that's really important. And when you have 3 little critters that, no matter how old they are always highly judgmental of are you doing what you say? I think it's a very serious thing in my life. I tend to be very structured, very serious about my life, but I love to laugh, I love to have fun, and the seriousness comes from me just making sure I stay on point. And I don't do that all the time, but you'll find I do that a lot more than I do.
So I imagine that probably takes a lot of intentionality on the front end in staying on task and doing those things and making sure you're eating healthy. I'm saying that from personal experience too. But after a while, does it become just a habit and easier to stay on task with all of those things and making sure you're going to bed on time and eating everything and working out the 6 days a week?
Well, first off, I love to eat, so let's not
making healthy choices.
Yeah, but I do make very good choices.
Yes.
But I don't prepare myself. I was watching this video yesterday of what this really famous person eats, and I was like, oh, what a horrible life. I need to I definitely spend time doing all that. I think God just changes your desires over a period of time. And I think He makes you more and more like what He wants you to be and what His desire is for you, the more that you are seeking Him. And that doesn't mean that I'm perfect at doing that, but I really want to do a great job. I don't know a better way to say that. I want to be a great Christian. I want to be a great wife, a great mom. I want to be a great coworker. I want to be a good community member, and all those things don't happen unless, the best thing about me taking on any new role. People are somebody today said you look so confident on some of the things. But one of the things, when people are how do you have confidence? One thing I thought about years and years ago, because I had to get up in front of our chairman at the time. He is scary. He's just no nonsense, and cuts to it, and I'm and I was really nervous because I had just taken on the role, and I'm very young. I'm 28 years old, and I'm presenting the budget to our top executives. And my manager said to me, "Hey, what are you nervous about? You know this better than anybody in the room." And I was that's really great advice. But what that further developed in me was, I guess I really don't have to have confidence in anything. I know that the most perfect human actually came into human form. The perfect person came into human form and walked this earth. And He sent the Holy Spirit to live inside every one of us that have accepted Him as our Lord and Savior. And I really did think, Lord, I don't have to have confidence anymore. I just am confident that You're in me. And You know what I'm good at, and You know what I'm really bad at. And You're going to place me in a position that will be good. And You'll equip me. And if I don't know, You'll come to my aid. And that helped me over and over and over. I spent one time in front of a bunch of customers, which, my role, very important. There aren't a lot of females in transportation. And in my role, if you look at our organization, 85% of our 37,000 employees are male. And that's because we dominate from a driver perspective, and we love our drivers. But if you just think about that, when I was presenting to the audience, I'm also the only female on stage, and the gentleman introduces the three key speakers, and he's one speaker, I'm going to give you what their backgrounds are, and I'd like to think about at the end of their speech, I'm going to have you guess which one is which. And the first one he says is a neuroscientist, and graduated from Yale University, and all I was thinking was oh my gosh. And then the next guy has 14 doctorates from a place nobody could ever get one from. This is what I'm hearing. And I'm oh my gosh. And then one's a Razorback. That set me in motion. I'm in front of all my customers, big executive sessions. And the neuroscientist gets up. He starts talking about something I've never heard of. I can't articulate. In that very moment, every insecurity I ever had was the room does this. And in that very moment, I literally just looked down and I started praying. And I was Lord, You've placed me on the stage as the razor. And Lord, just give me the words, take my nervousness away, and let me get up and let me just shine for You. That's all I could think. So I was I don't have anything else, I can get that. And anyway, I get up and I speak, and I just speak regular talk, just like I am today. And I got done, and I felt pretty good about it. I really didn't know. And in the end, I found out the neuroscientist wasn't the neuroscientist, so I felt better about that. Because he just tried to act like he was smarter too. He was as insecure as I was. But what was really great was at the end, one of my top customers grabbed me, maybe that afternoon, saw me in the hallway and yelled this huge conference, "Shelley!" I was oh, hey! And I walked up to him, and he was I just got to tell you, I've heard you speak before. That was exceptional. And I was really? And of course, I think I was probably thank you, but it sounded really? And he said, yeah, I got to tell you, we were all trying to figure out what that one guy was talking about. I was yes! My point is this. There are those moments in time, confidence and all those things that I really just think about things more simply now. It's like, you know what, God's gonna equip me. What I view as I'm ill-equipped for, He is equipped for, and He will equip me to do that. And so it's, I'm trying to position myself in life. I don't know everything to be president of the organization, but I do know that we have awesome people that can come up with what the answers are. And as long as I'm a great part of that team, we're gonna figure it out.
That's awesome, and you do exude a ton of confidence. So
Just think about that story.
Yes, and I will tell you too, in talking to Shelley ahead of time, she shared she just wants to speak from the heart. I asked her if she wanted to talk over anything, and she says, I just want to speak from the heart. So, and you do, and it does show. So I love that. So Proverbs 11:25 says.
Can I interrupt really quick? I just felt like I should do this.
Yes.
Because I think we're like down to the end. Is that right?
Yes.
Timing? Yep.
Okay.
So I just, is it okay if we just see if anybody has any questions?
Yeah,
Would that be
absolutely.
appropriate? If I totally messed you up?
Yeah, no, we have a couple
We'll
more
get to
questions, but
Proverbs
we'll get
too,
to it.
Is
Yes.
there anything that is on anybody's heart that you want to ask about?
Shelley,
Yes.
since people are so important to your vision and to your career, what have you learned about pouring into people, especially in regards to your career?
Well, I'm 51 years old now. And so what I've learned over a long period of time, it took me too long to realize that the only impact I'll make in life is what can be sustained with people over the long term. And so when we were talking about how many people were registered here, and she was like, oh, I think it's like this many, but we think, and I'm like, you know what, I don't care. I don't care if one person comes. Because I really believe that God's gonna bring the people here that can then go further and it equips you and it encourages you and it does all those things. I think for me, it's like the most important impact you can have. Like no one will remember the project that you worked on. I mean, they will, but they'll be like, oh yeah, you did that like 10 years ago or whatever. They won't remember your financial results. They won't remember you had this real hot shot or saved the company a lot of money. They just won't. You know, they're gonna remember like what impact you made on them personally. And so I would say that's probably the biggest thing that I realized is like every moment, especially now, because now sometimes you're like, oh yeah, I met you. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I was young in my career. You know, but people will remember all those emotions and all those feelings. I think I'm answering what your question is, but that's like kind of where I'm at now. It's like I'm 51, I'm on the other end. So, you know, I've got 10 years left to impact people in a great way. I don't know, 15, 30, I don't know. But I know it's not near as long as I had before. Yes.
So you've done a lot of amazing things. Do you have some things that are on your bucket list that you still hope to do?
No. I think because everything I've ever dreamed up, he's like, yeah, funny, let's do this right.
I have a really great outlook on life. Like a lot of bad things happen. You know, I didn't share my dad got sick, he died in 14 months. You know, it's really sad until I realized my husband only had his father for 21 years. And now I feel really blessed. And it's not that I'm like, yay, my dad's gone. It's more like, you know what, thank you. You know, my husband said, I was on a plane trip and I was like, oh, I'm struggling with his dad. And he knew it because he was like, how you doing? I'm like, oh, just the right time. You know how that happens. Like, it's always a guy thing. He's like, how you doing? I'm Shelley. You know what his response was? Be glad your dad met your kids. I was like, I feel so selfish. You know what I'm saying? And he didn't mean it to make me feel bad. It just put me in perspective. So I feel like, you know, if God took me out tomorrow, I feel fulfilled. I feel like, you know, I've made an impact. It's been important. My kids are raised, yes. You know, they lived with it. That was the most important thing to me. So I don't have anything else. Do I feel like God is stirring something inside me? 100,000,000%. I feel like I want to set the world on fire with God. I don't know what that means. And it can be right here, like what I'm doing. And a lot of that here. And so I think the only thing I want to do is I just want to do more for God. And like eternal is way, way, way more important to me now. Bad answer probably, but
No, I love it. Stand back there.
yes, ma'am.
Well, first off, thank you. This is my first college event, so it's super inspiring, and just as a young professional to hear someone like you know, you don't always get to hear from someone who's found success, also a woman, but also a woman of faith. So thank you. And I know you shared some examples of times where, like, when you came back from a part-time job where God, you felt like had that experience with your assistant where the Lord just, it was an aha moment of, I'm supposed to be here, this is where He's leading me. I don't know if you have an example or maybe just any advice of times where maybe, you know, it doesn't always happen like that. You think the Lord is pushing you to a certain position or certain role, and maybe the door does close, you know. Maybe you have any advice on how to navigate through that and understand where the Lord is pushing you in a corporate perspective.
Yeah, so I wrote a LinkedIn article, and it's a secular view, but I want you to put on what I would add to that. So the LinkedIn article was all about, like, are you having a moment, or is it time for change? And I love something our Chief Sustainability Officer says, the quote many times she's never told anyone.
Oh, yeah.
And it happens a lot in your career, and that could be quitting on, like, marriage, kids, work, boss, whatever, yourself. Sometimes. And I think for me, so many times the door shut for me. There are many times I did think about leaving the company. More because I was like, oh, you're trying to take me somewhere else. Not in transportation. No, I'm in the best company ever. So not for that. It's just like, is there something else for me? And I think patience is really important. And there's not like, it's not a feeling you get affirmation. Right? So a lot of times people are like, God, just show me a sign. I mean, thankfully, she did come in. I didn't pray for that. You know, sometimes He shows you something just because you need to be affirmed, or you need, you know, to be inspired or to know. And sometimes we pray for it, and I was like, sorry. You know, I'll just be obedient more than anything. So I think for me, I play the waiting game a lot. My husband always says it takes me forever to make a decision, and that's true. He makes them on the fly, which is no good either. And so we're really good in the middle, because I'm like, well, give me 4 years and I'll think about it. He's like, how about 4 minutes? So I would say a lot of patience, and a lot of just talking to people with more wisdom. I think the people that can give you good perspective from a faith perspective. Most people jump for money first. Huge mistake. Humongous. I'm not saying you shouldn't be paid fairly. You should be paid fairly for the work that you do. But most people don't think long term, and I would say I'm thankful that I backed up on some of the decisions that I could have made. And I think I worked on. Thank you. There was a question.
That the confidence you're talking about, I have it when it comes to everyone else. I've worked through a lot of stuff in regards to feeling worthy and all of those things that have happened in the world. But I realized that when it comes to Him, I don't feel that He can bless me because I'm not there where He wants me to be. And I did realize that that's the view I have of myself that He has of me. And that was so powerful on the way over here, of just realizing that I cannot believe that I see myself like that He can't bless me, that I have to be perfect, and that I feel so broken still for Him to bless me. So to hear you is just mind-blowing, and I know you have the answer.
No pressure.
You know, so somebody say none of us are worthy. And like, if you can just think of it from a very simple perspective, as you can't ever earn your salvation. You can't ever do anything that made Him just die on the cross for you. And so if you look at it from that perspective, if you're not a mom, you will be someday, or you'll know somebody that's a mom. Certainly you have a mom. You'll understand, like, the glimpse, tiny glimpse of how He thinks of you. and explode that times 1,000,000. How I think of my kids, nobody could possibly love my kids more than me, and he loves them 1,000,000 times more. And so think about when my kids, I'm gonna bring their neck, just rip them up, and I still want the very best for them. And that's how he does you. And so when they say he's our Heavenly Father, he really is in heaven. He's over everything. And so you can't look at it like a punishing father, although we go through trials in our life, right? Consider yourself blessed for trials that you go through, right? Or Thessalonians, excuse me. And so I would say that's the most important thing, is you'll never be worthy enough to earn your salvation, or for God to love us, but he loves us that much. He even knows that we can turn our back on him for our entire life and move to eternity without him. But instead he says, but you know what, I'm still here for you just in case you'll accept me. Will you accept me? Will you come to me? Or will you have the very best that I have planned for you in your life? And that's what he wants from you right now. Here. I'm so sorry.
Ways that you can share with us about how we can foster a sense of service or love for others in our work environments, especially if that's not the focus in our offices or workspaces right now.
Well, I think this is really important because, you know, it's interesting how Satan weaponizes the workplace today and politicizes so much of the environment that we're in. And as Christians, you know, we are called to love every single person. And when you think about what that means, think about what's happening in workplaces and sometimes there's so many of us that are very hard to love. You know, it's like, well, Lord, in my mission statement is to love others. And it's like, well, what does that mean? What's love? As if he loved me in my worst of times. And so that's what I try to think about. People is like, well, wait a minute, there's a story there. I'm always trying to get to this. What made someone become who they are? Like they have a story, and almost always you can go back to their reason. Almost always. Like when somebody's snarky to me or can't stand me and maybe I deserve it too. But if I can't figure out what it is, a lot of times it's like, well, I wonder what happened in their life. Like what made them where they are today. You know, and I always talk about, look at people that I don't love, or when people look at me and I'm not lovable, how they give me the same grace that I've tried to extend. Yeah.
It's not right. It's really good advice. Let me see. And that's probably all of them. We can try really quick to do the last one. It's just, how has your faith impacted your work and your focus on serving and loving others? But I think you answered that. Everything you said. Is there anything else you want to share with everybody?
No, and if I could just pray for the room.
Absolutely.
Okay. Dear God, just thank you for this time, Lord. And God, I just know that we are purposed. And Lord, that those that came today just by a friend inviting them, Lord, that I thank you that you've encouraged me. I thank you that encouraged all of us, God. And Lord, I just pray that we look at things from a broader view, from your lens, God, that today, this afternoon, there's going to be a deadline and a priority that gets missed or isn't at our best, God. But Lord, can we think about doing our best for you? Lord, will you just give us the confidence in you? Lord, let us pursue with vigor what your plan is in our life. Lord, I thank you for their obedience and wanting to have great fellowship with each other, Lord. Thank you, God, for bringing us together. Amen.